Welcome back once again to the You Should Get a License podcast edition, your number one source for information, education, inspiration on the most underrated career opportunity in business today. That's a career in the financial services, in the insurance industry. Today is going to be just a powerful day, because, there are certain people, one of the joys that I get in being able to, host on this platform is I get to speak to people that I admire and have great appreciation and respect for in this industry. And the individual that we're going to be talking to is not only someone who is very knowledgeable and very successful, but someone who is very influential in driving forward the future of where this industry is really going. When you talk about someone, who has come up, come up from the ground floor, being a child and kind of raised in the business to taking over the business, not being given, but taking it over, buying it himself, and who has expanded the company coast to coast, around the world, international. This is an international brother who we have coming on here. And, and if you're fortunate enough to meet him in person and you visit his amazing office with his amazing staff and crew out in Las Vegas, he is a owner because they own the building. Okay, they own the building. So this is another level of just industry prowess and excellence overall, as I like to call it. But I want to welcome to the You Should Get a License platform, Mr. Quincy Branch of Branch Benefits. Quincy, welcome.
Man, welcome. Thank you, sir. And for a second there, I was trying to figure out who you were talking to or talking about, because I was trying to that can't be me with all those nice words. But no, man, I appreciate it to the fullest, sir. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, look, I'm excited for our conversation because I know you have a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight. And, really, I consider you a friend, in this space. We've had the opportunity to spend some time together, personally, professionally, and have some different conversations. And I've been really looking forward, to having you on so we could talk about some of that more. Before we start digging in, I just want to get a sense and allow our audience to kind of get a sense of what you do and where your areas of specialty are. Many of the people who are listening to this platform are either new to the industry, or maybe they're thinking about getting into this business, so they're relying on it as a source of information to kind of guide their steps. So can you just tell us a little bit about Branch Benefits and what you guys specialize in this industry?
Oh, okay, cool, awesome. Well, Branch Benefits Consultants. So our headquarters is in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we're a full service agency. So we do it all: personal lines, commercial, and benefits, and soon to be financial services. Q1 of next year. So we've got that on the docket. But, outside of that, I think you talk about specialties or niches. I know everybody says that you need to have a niche and you should have a niche. And obviously we probably, I want to say, specialize more so in the hospitality, nonprofits, and professional services. When construction was high in Vegas, of course, we did a lot of construction stuff, but obviously that's taken a dive, but it's coming back. But for the most part, we have locations, as I said before, Vegas, St. Louis, and Washington, D.C. And across those lines, man. But really, that's really who we are. Nothing special, in my humble opinion.
No, it's very special. In fact, it's very special. I mean, here's one thing that I just want to highlight right off. You said, when you mention full service, sometimes when individuals speak to being full service, they might say full service from a property and casualty aspect, right? So we're doing personal lines, we're doing commercial lines as well with working with businesses. But you guys are full service in the standpoint that not only are you working in the property and casualty space, but you're also in the life and health space on the employee benefit side. And even, as you alluded to, expanding into more of the financial services, retirement planning, things of that nature in the future. One, just to kind of get your thoughts on that. Obviously, you guys are participating in that as part of your business model. Is that something that you would recommend for other agencies? And is that a difficult balance for you to have, or is it just something that feels like a natural fit?
You know what, man, it's a great question. And I would say, I'm gonna try to answer this one and not create open up a can of worms. I would say it was a natural fit for me. And only because I feel like I've always been a person, that saying where it says a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Yeah.
But then the going on that statement says, but it's good to be that way. But that's the way we were. So as an agency, long story short, we first started off as an employee benefits only agency. That's all we did, which is of course how we got branch benefits consultants. And we just sort of evolved and morphed into the property and casualty, into the personal lines space. But like I said before, that was a natural progression for us. And it's because of our business model and our way that we look at our client. Our thing is we want to make sure that we can be a true risk manager, advisor for our client completely. And so for us, a lot of things we saw that, okay, if we were looking at things on the benefit side, a lot of that fed into the commercial with like workers' comp. So we saw the tie in there. And then of course you take it a step further, and I'm a big proponent, especially on the life insurance side. So therefore, you talk to people, now you're dealing with people's personal lives, and it's like, okay, it just for me, it was a natural continuation of the conversation to say, okay, to go from benefits to commercial to personal lines, and eventually now going into financial services, that it just made sense for us.
Now adding that as a part of your mix, would you recommend taking it in steps the same way that you've done it? Or would you say, hey, look, if you want to, kind of play in all the sandboxes, go ahead and start diving into the information. What would be your guidance for someone to kind of move through those processes? Because they're different, segments. I mean,
yeah,
each one can be a little tricky.
Well, and I'll say this, Rod, great question. And I probably should clarify this. If you're a one-man shop or one woman shop and you're doing it, then I would say I'll be very cautious to try to dabble and do all of that, because again, that takes time, that takes energy. But I am a strong believer in what they say, a rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah.
And I never want to be the smartest person in our organization. So I've been blessed to have a lot of talented people surrounded, by me. So therefore, when we say personal lines, I tell people all the time, I've been in this business now 22 years, and I know enough about all the different lines to be dangerous, but I'm not a specialist in any. So let me be very clear. Benefits is where I cut my teeth at. So I'll probably say that's where my niche is at, so to speak. But for me, and as an agency owner, it was important that I get people and put them in the right places. So we have very talented people in personal lines, talented people in commercial, and probably even more talented people in benefits. So I would definitely say, if you're going to go that route, man, find the talent, because I think that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, you just went to another area. So how important, you mentioned that, because it's how important is it for you to have that infrastructure development as the foundation of your business?
Man, oh my gosh. See, we're gonna go off on a whole other tangent now. But for me, we talk about that natural fit. That's my mentality. I'm a natural sort of leadership, foundational, organizational type person. And so for me in our agency, building the foundation was key. Figuring out who we want to be, where we want to be, what we want to do was truly where we had to go. Now, obviously, I have that visionary. I can think 7, 10, 20 years out. But to your point exactly, man, establishing what do you want to do, putting pen to paper and saying, okay, this is how this is going to walk out. But then I think also understanding that plan is probably going to change every 6 months.
Right.
But if how that saying goes, if you don't plan, you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
You plan to fail. Yeah.
And I think so. I think that's key, especially as an agency owner. I've only been an independent agency owner and worked in the independent agency space my whole entire career. So this is the only vantage point that I have. And so I think a lot of times, to your point, we wear a lot of hats, and we have to dabble in different things. But when you don't have that plan in place, man, it's like a rabbit hole. Okay, I'm down here, and before you know, I forgot about this. But when you have that plan and that roadmap, it just keeps you, in line.
Yeah. Based on, what you guys have done there, and when you go out and you look at your presidents, you look at, how, your involvement with the different trade associations, different organizations, it's kind of, you kind of miss that you guys are actually an independent agency. I want to bring, I just want to bring that back for a minute and just maybe kind of explain some of the differences between being an independent agency versus a captive organization or maybe a franchised style of organization.
So, and really, I guess to just put it at a real ground roots, third grade type of level, because that's where I think at most of the time. On the independent side, we have that flexibility, we have that freedom to work with any and all carriers that are in our designated markets. So, we like to express it and say it as, we have the freedom and flexibility to go out there and get you the best price, find you the best plan, but also advocate on your behalf. Compared to a captive where they're probably maybe only dealing with 1 or 2 markets, at best, maybe 3 if they have a long-standing contract. But then also too, what I'd like to say is about the independent market is that you're doing it, man, you're basically doing it on your own. Again, I know the captives, you own your own agency, you own your own book, but you also have that big brand behind you, and when that big brand is doing a commercial, when they do one, everybody benefits, versus an independent agency where they're the ones that, okay, if they do it, it's for their brand, it's for their name, and you have to build that awareness. So I think that's really the key, is having the freedom of choice and having that flexibility to say, okay, you know what, I'm not beholden to 1 or 2 or 3 carriers, and that's fine, nothing's wrong with that. But we have the availability to go to the market and say, okay, hey, we can work with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different carriers. But at the same time, talking about being niche and experts, that also is a bigger burden of proof on us, because now we have to really know the product of all these different carriers.
Right.
And we have to know, okay, hey, if you come to me with a risk, I can go to these 3 versus that one, or I can go to this one versus this one. So it really, in my humble opinion, puts you more in your game, and it makes you really want to be sharp, because now just because you have more weapons to choose from doesn't necessarily make you a skilled fighter. You got to know how to use those weapons.
You got to use the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Okay. No. Look, I didn't mean to go that far that early. So I do want to bring it back, because I think your childhood and you growing up, not only in the business, but the other things that you were doing are very important. So I always like to ask the question, because I know you ended up in the business, but I know that's not where you thought you would be originally. So yeah. I want you to take me back, 9 years old, 10 years old, Quincy Branch. What were you dreaming of at that time? What were you thinking of being when you were a grown man, when you grew up?
Oh man, see, I need a couch to sit back and talk about that one, but no, I think, Rod, like probably a lot of people, man, I had hoop dreams. Yeah. I was going to be a hooper. I was going to go and go to college and make the pros, or go do something. That was my plan. And then I think, very early on, I realized that I always had a business mindset, because going back to my dad, my dad always had something entrepreneurial going on, whether it was an insurance or whether it was some other side things he was doing. He always showed me that entrepreneurial side. I'm like, okay, so I had the bug early. But, I tell people my story all the time, but probably when I was like 13 or so, one summer he was in insurance, and my dad started off, man, he was an old school debit route, so for anybody that's seasoned on this call, they'll know that, that door to door collecting premiums, go and sit down and have coffee with people, and this was back in Louisiana. So, you got the humidity, you got mosquitoes and everything else. But one day, one summer, I just hung out with him. I said, man, I'm gonna go hang out with him and just see what his job was like. And the crazy part about it is, Rod, when I got back from that day, I said, okay, if this is what insurance is, I would never do insurance. Like, never. Like, this is not what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. And so everything up until, that point where I came in 1998 led up to that. Like, I went to school for business management, got my degree, knew I wanted to be in business, worked at Enterprise, did all the other things and everything, but it was never to get into insurance. So I tell people all the time, like, I didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on me.
Right. Absolutely. Now you mentioned, the hoop dreams. Now, for some people, it's a dream, but for you, it was more of a reality. I mean, you really had you really had a successful, career as a young athlete. Tell me, let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that's important. Even showing how, you and your father, you went to work with him and you're looking at him from a business standpoint, but even how the sacrifices and the transitions that even kind of led you out to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Or from the West Coast, Louisiana, then back to the West Coast.
Right.
Right.
And great question. And I'll say this. When I speak to young people, which is a passion of mine, right, I always tell them, man, put yourself in position to give you options. Yeah. And so basketball really gave me options. Really. That's really what it did. Because going back to that, man, I owe so much to my mom and my dad because of the hoop dreams, that's what got me to Vegas. Literally, we came out to visit Vegas at my God's parents and went to a camp at UNLV. Long story short, got wind that, hey, Vegas might be a good place and whatnot, got some buzz. And so I remember coming back off that vacation, man, sitting down with my parents and told them point blank, I want to go to Vegas. Vegas is the place I need to be. That's where the opportunity is going to be. And without batting an eye, man, my dad was like, okay, let's make it happen. So by the end of that summer, I was on a bus, a Greyhound bus, 15-year-old kid, put me on a Greyhound bus, leaving New Orleans, 2.5 days with only, this is back with no cell phones now, no cell phone, no pager. I think all I had was my backpack, suitcase, and the autobiography of Malcolm X. And that was it. And so took that 2.5 day journey, stayed with my godparents for a few months. My mom moved out right before the new year. And then my dad moved out after he sold the house and everything else. And it's been all you wrote since then. But going back to your point, talking about basketball, man, like that's what gave me options. The ability to put a ball in the hoop and have some athleticism really gave me the option to say, okay, one, it paid for my school, So when I left school, I didn't owe anybody anything, which was amazing. But then it allowed me to travel. It allowed me to meet so many different people that even to this day, I'm still in connection with and I have good relationships with. So it's just one of those things where, again, it was just a weapon in my arsenal that allowed me to get to where I am today. So, it's been a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah. I find that, many times people who have, athletic backgrounds, particularly if it's competitive, they go into business and particularly even in this industry, right, they end up doing very well. What are some of the things that you feel like your background in athletics translated for success for you in this business?
Discipline. The ability to self-manage, the ability to work with others, obviously, but then that whole, I think team in sports breeds leaderships and breeds leaders, and so and just that desire in anybody that plays sports or done anything, man, like, sometimes you don't want to get up and go to practice. Right. Sometimes your body hurts. But then again, being in insurance or being an agency owner, especially, I didn't want to get up every day and go to work, but I had to, and I saw a bigger picture, and you sacrifice for the greater good and that whole goal planning and things of that nature. So I just think a lot of things that are just synonymous with sports that maybe goes beyond what's on the field or the court really puts a lot of good tools into you to breed for just a really good, decent person in the workforce, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Really in any career path you pursue. But I know several of my friends who have either play ball in high school, college, or even on a professional level. And when they enter this industry, they always end up doing very well.
Yeah.
Because it's a different kind of work ethic, and as you mentioned, like a different kind of discipline that they're bringing to the table,
and then plus you got to be a little competitive too.
And the competitive spirit, right? Competitive nature, yes, absolutely.
That competitive nature, don't count that out, man. Like I say, just the ability and the fact to say, you know what, I'm gonna bet on myself, and I'm gonna motivate myself. That's a huge key component.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about that journey, right? Because you were thinking that, hey, I'm going to be playing ball. You ended up going to school for business. You're working at enterprise. Kind of take me through that, from your basketball career into saying, hey, okay, I'm going to school, majoring in business. I'm going to go into business, not my father's business, into business. And then how did you end up getting to the industry? How did you end up getting to the insurance industry?
All right, I'm gonna try to make that one short. But no, so like all things, graduated high school, got a scholarship to Colorado? It's Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction, Colorado, to play ball and go to an athletic and academic scholarship. Wound up getting an injury. Same year I got injured was the same year that the coach that recruited me decided to retire. And so, when you see the writing on the wall that when they start recruiting at your position, and you're like, hold on, like, this guy played the same, okay, writing on the wall. So I remember, man, the summer of my third year, my dad came back out to get me. We're driving back to Vegas. And I literally turned to him, I said, I think I'm done. I don't think I'm going back. And my dad always told me something. He said, if you lose the love for the game, stop playing. Don't ever not do it if you don't love it anymore. And I said, you know what? I still love the game, but not at that level to quote unquote sacrifice or do whatever the case may be. So, didn't question me. Man, I enrolled at UNLV, to your point, taking business management courses. And at that time, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. Have started working with enterprise, did a little management trainee program there. Didn't really, it fit, but didn't really fit. And so my dad had a small agency, and he was like, well, just come work in the agency. I'm like, okay, well, I can do that. And I tell people all the time, I was literally the quintessential office grunt. I was the young kid. I was going to school at night, working during the day. And I was the kid that was cleaning the office on Saturdays. For those
the trash cans.
Right, all that good stuff. For all my insurance old school people, he had a personal lines agency that was primarily Hispanic at the time. And I was in oh my gosh, man, it was a room the size of a closet. I think about it now, with shag green carpet. I remember it like it was yesterday, with one window with bars on it. But I was in that room filing deck pages. And for anyone that knows my Hispanic brothers and sisters, that's multiple last names. So I was filing deck pages with multiple last names. And I think that's half how I learned how to speak a little bit of Spanish, because just reading last names and things of that nature. But yeah, go and get the mail, doing little different runs. But then slowly but surely, I started doing more accounting stuff. So he said, hey, if you're going to stick into it, man, do the accounting work. It's okay, fine. I'll do that, no problem. More back office stuff. Did all that stuff, graduated from UNLV. And then shortly thereafter, he's still hanging around. He's like, well, you know what? If you're going to hang around here, go ahead and get your P&C license while you're young, while you're fresh. Just go ahead and do it. And this was literally fresh off me graduating from college. And I'm like, okay, what the heck? Self-studied, took all the classes, got my P&C license. Boom. Okay, hey, yep, good. Didn't really do much with it. Hung it in the office. Bah. 6 months later, 6 months at the most, hey, you say you're hanging around, go ahead and get your life and health license. You'll be well-rounded. And I think this is how he got me. He said, once you get it, they can never take it away from you. So I'm like, sure, okay, no biggie. So self-study, got the life and health license. By that time, he had moved and got another agency, and partnered up with another gentleman. The minute I got my life and health license, Rod, he tells me, you know what, our agency, we're starting a benefits division and you're going to run it. And I had the same face. So I'm thinking, what? Yep. And so again, started learning life and health, the individual policies, group policies. Within 6 months or so, we landed one of our biggest cases with a local city, a municipality in Vegas. And man, I learned the employee benefit space baptism by fire. But I fell in love with it. Literally just fell in love with it. And from there, just started to grow, just started to move. And I will say this for all of your listeners, 'cause I know you said earlier that you have some people that maybe are new to the industry. I think one of the biggest things and key things that I had right at the time was, man, I had not only my father and his partner, but man, I had a mentor. And I always make sure I give this guy a shout out, Lee Bethel. Lee Bethel was my mentor in this business and told me, you got your licenses, but now go get your education. And by doing that, designations. Because he said, if you get them designations, again, I'm young in the business, not really sure what I'm doing. He said, if you get that, again, nobody can take that away from you. And what your looks and what your experience may not have, you're going to have an education. And so Lee used to always press into me, well, no, what designation are you going to get now? What designation are you going to get now? So that's why I'm proud to have those alphabets after my name.
Yeah.
Because, man, those things paid off in the long run.
Absolutely.
And really brought credibility. Because a lot of times, I would walk into rooms, and here I am, 22, 23, 24 years old. I would walk in the room and I would look like a kid. I would look like some 15, 16-year-old kid. But when I spoke and I realized, and people realized, oh, no, this kid knows what he's talking about. And, and I had that planning, sports and all that other good stuff. It just all came together naturally.
Yeah, yeah.
So
you still are young, 20, you're still young, right?
Right. And I'm 45 years old, 22
Wow.
years in the business, man. But I had a guy tell me that. Matter of fact, I had a guy tell me that last week. He was like, man, you look like you're about 25, 30 years old. I'm like, I appreciate that. And I guess I'll appreciate it more when I'm 65. And I look
right.
But no. So, that education and having those letters behind your name,
Yeah.
I think, one, it just shows, it proves to yourself that you're serious about the industry. But then to the people that are in the industry that know what the sacrifice you put into getting those letters behind your name,
yeah,
it brings credibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And we haven't really on the platform, we haven't really talked about designations yet, right? Like we've talked about, licensing, but actually I'd like to talk about that a minute. Talk to us about the designations that you hold right now. And if you could kind of break them out for us.
Yeah, no worries. So I think the first one I got was my RHU, was a registered health underwriter.
Okay.
Designation. And again, that's just simply letting people know and showing the public and the community and everybody else know that, hey, I did some extra studying when it comes to healthcare and whatnot. And it's not just some simple little course where you take it in 3 hours and you're done.
Correct.
No, that was a whole course, like almost like a college semester, if you will.
Yes.
So, I did that. And then my next one was my EHBA, which was my EBHA, my Employee Benefits Health Advisor designation. And so that was sort of that was the next course as an extension of the RHU. And then I've done my CPIA, which is certified insurance professional. And that's more so of a sales course that I've done. And then I've also, and this one doesn't show up on as an alphabet, but I've participated in the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program over at Babson College. And I did that that was a year program. Yeah. That really taught me more about business, marketing, all aspects of business. We had to go to Babson College twice that year to really, get with your cohorts and learn and listen. So I'm a big proponent, I've always has been, of just education. And 'cause I think you can never stop growing and developing. And in our industry, there are so many designations that you can be a part of, the CIC and different things of that nature. So like I said, again, I think whether your company pays for it or not, if you can scrap the pennies to put together and have the time to do it, especially if you get into the business early, I think that's the perfect time.
You should do it.
Get into it early, you do it, because to that point, my dad always said, once you get it, they can't take it back.
Can't take it back. No, I'm glad that, you spoke to that, because, oftentimes I think that when people even look at our industry, I think when people look at our industry and they see the letters behind people's name, they get confused because they don't know what they mean, right? But also people who are entering the business, they kind of feel like it stops at the license, right? And they don't necessarily know that, oh man, there are different levels that you can attain from an educational standpoint. I love the quote that you shared. You got your license, now it's time to get your education.
Yes.
I just got my REBC last year, the Registered Employee Benefits Consultant. And you're right. That thing, that's college course. And I pay for it myself. Like, I pay for it out of pocket because I was like, I think it's valuable to have, right? And I'm glad that you mentioned it, because I definitely think that people who are licensed should still continue to go get those designations. I'm going to get a CLCS later this year.
Ooh, that's one of the big boys right there. You going?
Is it really? Oh,
yeah.
It's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks. So I think it's just important to just continue that education in the business, and I'm glad that you pointed that out, and thank you for sharing that too. So going into the employee benefit space, let's talk about that trial by fire. Let's talk about, like, what did that mean? How did that? Was it intimidating? Was it scary after you got past it? Like, how did you feel once you got over the hump? Because employee benefits is also a space where we hear about life insurance. People think about getting a license. I get my life insurance license. I'm gonna go write some life insurance. So even I get my property and casualty license. I'm gonna go write some homeowners and auto. But employee benefits, that's not one.
Yeah.
That's not one that's talked about
Mm-hmm.
as much. So what was your experience like, kind of going into that first case and getting that done?
Right. Well, and I think to your point, exactly, because it wasn't, and you don't really talk about it a lot, it was eye-opening for me, being somebody that really likes to learn, but to learn the medical, dental, vision, life on the group aspect, side of it, man, that was exciting to me. But then more so, I think, and where my passion in this business comes from, is realizing how those things affect each and every employee differently. And that's really what got me to dive in. Like, okay, you can have this one PPO plan I'm using, for example, but literally every employee and every family is going to operate and use that differently. And really, when you're sitting across from somebody or sitting next to somebody, and this was all pre-COVID stuff, when you can meet with people and everything else, right? It was amazing to sit down and explain something to somebody. Okay, this is how this plan is going to work. Oh, you got 3 kids. Okay, this is how this plan is going to work for those 3 kids, and see that light bulb moment go off for people. And it's like, oh, okay, I got it. Boom, boom, boom. Man, that's the part that I really enjoy. That whole education piece.
Yeah.
Really helping people understand, not just to have a benefit, but this is how you maximize the benefit.
That's right.
So, so for me, that's what really got me into it and really helped me dive into it even more so. And that's what I think that's really what spurred the whole me getting more educated in the piece. But I love the fact of seeing people have that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
How you don't just go through open enrollment, read the papers and like, oh, okay, I got a benefit. But no, man, this is how your benefit and why your benefit works for you. So I think that was more important to me on the group side with employee benefits.
Absolutely. One of the catalysts for this platform, and why I say you should get a license, is because, not only are you empowered with that information, but you empower others with information that they can utilize for themselves. So yeah, that like seeing people, kind of get it and understand what it is that you're saying definitely goes a long way.
Oh, yeah.
So, now at this stage, you talked, kind of about your beginning, just kind of starting and running that. How did you get to the phase where, okay, now I'm going to take it on, not just from a strategic and a consulting standpoint divisionally, but I'm going to really take on all aspects of the business from a leadership and management standpoint, and really just assume like all the operations. How did you move into that space?
Well, I think for me, again, going back to just me naturally as a person, right? That was always the goal.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I've always had those big dreams and big visions. And I've always been one, as I said earlier, man, I never wanted to be the smartest guy in the boat. And I never wanted to be the one that everything centered around me. So it was always the goal to sort of be bigger, be stronger, and sort of do what we're doing now. So by God's grace, it has always come to pass. But I think too, it's about leaving a legacy, right?
Yeah.
And my dad, was able to leave a legacy with me. And I tell people all the time, whereas, he started off on the 1-yard line, I've been blessed to, okay, well, I maybe started off on the 25 or the 30. So my goal is now to leave it in a place and space where, okay, the person's come behind me, and whether that's one of my kids or whomever, okay, maybe you can start at the 50.
Yeah.
Maybe you can start at the 60 and grow it even further. So I think for me, it was always the goal to be more of that leader, to be more of the visionary and whatnot. And I think that goes back to also ego. And I say this very cautionary, because everybody is not in that place and space. If you want to be the head honcho, you want to be the boss, you want to be that person that everybody comes to, and you want to have everybody pin all the medals on you, then just know what comes with that.
That's right.
A lot of long nights, a lot of long days and everything else. And I'm not saying I don't work hard on my days not long as well, but I've just been one, and especially in the place and space where I'm at now, Rod, well, man, I want to be impactful with my career.
Yeah.
I want to create opportunities for others. I want to be able to collaborate and connect with brothers like yourself, and do things that move the needle in our community, that do things that move the needle in our industry. So but again, that's just been my mentality. My mentality was never to be, this one man conglomerate. It was always to be a bigger conglomerate, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And even speaking to the legacy piece, how you mentioned, hey, it started with your dad, you kind of picked it up, took it to the next level. I remember when I was out there, you had your son in the agency. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, how does that like kind of come full circle for you to have him in the office with you?
Right. We call it the Hakuna Matata, the circle of life, whatever you want to call my thing. But, and again, he sort of grew up in the business, because, we had it ever since he's been born. And so, he's done things where, I bring him in the office before we drop him off at school, and he's always known it. But it wasn't until he was finishing up his first year, we gave him an internship this summer, and he came into the business, and man, it was cool. It was amazing to have him there. Like, and I think, but 2 weeks into his internship, he came home one day and he just talking. He said, "Man, Dad, I finally get it. Man, y'all work hard. Like now, he said, I finally see when you talk about when you come home, you just like, shh, I'm spending." He's like, "I get it now." And so to hear him say that, and then to sort of find his niche as he did his 14-week internship, it was cool not to see him just get a better understanding of what I do on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. Was cool. Like I told him, your internship was not about you diving into insurance. I don't want to pressure you into, quote unquote, you got to be the next generation of this, whatever the case may be, because obviously, I want him to be able to find his own way. And if it is insurance, then great. If it's not, what I want him to know is that insurance gave you the options to be able to do what and had that flexibility and freedom. But I'm proud to say now, man, he's going back to school, but he's working with the agency now. He found his niche. He started doing social media for us, and it took off. And so now we offered him a role. So he's our social media content creator. And so he's going to do that while he's in school. It's funny. I had a call with him earlier today about his role. And so we had a good call. And I said, okay, every Monday we're going to have a call. So it's just cool to now still have him connected, and still have him doing that. So overall, man, that was probably the crowning best thing of my whole entire summer, to just see him do that, to see him earn. And again, not to have some token position, but like he worked, and see him find a position and realize that, okay, I want to do this even while I'm in school getting my education. Absolutely. I'm like, that's cool, sir. Absolutely, man. Hey, man, that's a testament to you. That's a testament to your dad. You guys have just a special energy like about you, and it's felt, it's felt there. So just, congratulations, on that. And it's exciting to see, when that story continues, you know what I mean? So to speak. And it's exciting to see, just the expansion that you're making right now. I want to talk about that, because I want to talk about like what's motivating you right now, like what's driving you forward, because as we're speaking, your home office is in Las Vegas, but as we're speaking, you're in St. Louis for another event. What's pushing Quincy branch right now? Well, Right. We have a saying in our office, and I started saying this, man, probably maybe like 7, 8 years ago, and literally want to take over the world one insurance policy at a time.
Mm.
You know, for all my old school peeps that know the pinky in the brain, they used to wake up every morning and say, "What are we gonna do today,
Yeah.
Pinky? Oh, we're gonna take over the
Take
world,
over
one
the
insurance."
world, right?
You know, and so I just played off of that. But really, you know, so the journey has evolved, right? So when we first started, it was all about, okay, the grind of growth. Okay, how do we do this? You know, over the last 11 years, we've done about 9 merger and acquisition transactions. To your point, like we mentioned earlier, we got 3 locations so far. We got clients from California to DC, but you know, so now as it is evolved, you know, it's more so now. You talk about what drives me is that how to be impactful. You know, how can I make a difference in my community? First and foremost, you know, all of our locations and all of our agencies, we know that's one of the things that we're going to do. You know, we have an employee-led community engagement resource group that we do things every quarter. We want to make sure that we get out in the community. You know, we have, and I'm here actually in St. Louis. We have a partnership with our historically Black college out here in St. Louis, Harris Stowe University, where we have a scholarship in the name of our agency out here that we're going to donate to athletes that are in business and that are in the athletic department to help them with their books or whatever the case may be. So again, community impact is important to me, but then also impact within our business. You know this, I know this, you know, there are not a lot of minorities in the insurance space. And so being in a position that I am in, that I can actually have my hand to affect change, and I can hire people that look like us, you know, give them an opportunity that maybe they wouldn't have gotten in some other space, is really important for me.
Yeah.
You know, but then I mentioned it earlier, our agency, at the end of the day, you know this to be the case, where, you know, we got to sell insurance. You know, that's what we do.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we do. We got to sell it. But the same way that I have that passion about education, that's the same thing that we put into our agencies. Man, we want to be true advisors. You know, we want to educate our clients. So if that means we got to sell one less policy to make sure that we sell a quality policy and we educate and we partner with that client, then that's what it's all about. So I think you know, for me right now, is really, that's what it's all about, man, driving impact.
Yeah.
How can we really be impactful in our space? How can we partner, you know, with people that are brilliant in their spaces to do bigger work? Because I think at some point, you know, we can all, how you put that? Like we can all be individual light bulbs and shine bright. But man, when we come together,
Yeah.
like we can actually blind and block some people and do some things and truly inspire. And that's really what it's all about right now for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel that. And I know what you're saying is 100% from your heart as well, bro. So okay, 22 years. Did you get your license 22 years ago? Because I want to ask a question about that.
Yes, sir.
So licensed 22 years ago. Your life prior to having your license versus after having your license.
Life prior to having my license, oh gosh, was carefree. You know, but no, and really, it was like anybody else, man. You still were trying to find yourself and everything else, and not really knowing what you want to do and whatnot. But I tell people all the time, while I necessarily didn't get into this industry on purpose, even though my father was in this business, it's been one of the best decisions that I ever could have made, Rob. You know, I have friends from college to this day that I tell them, I say, man, look, I haven't punched a time clock since 1998. You know, when my kids had events going on, I was there. You know, when this industry, with the positions that I've served by being on all these different boards and being chairmen of different things, man, I've traveled to so many different places. You know, I've met so many different people. So I think for me, the life before the license was just sort of leading up to this and building up to this moment, to be totally honest. I think it was just creating and building and molding me to really say, okay, you got the license, you got the education, to now, okay, this is your purpose.
Yeah.
You know, so, and the funny part is, as a 45-year-old insurance professional, if I'm just being honest, man, I think I really just figured that whole purpose thing out maybe like a few years ago.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now, okay. Speaking of purpose, let me go here with it then. Your evolution, right, as a man, how has working in this industry impacted that?
Oh man. Wow. That's deep. Well, I think my evolution as a man and working in this industry has sort of gone hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I'll use this not to compare myself to him at all, but I only use this because, hey, he's one of the people that I really look up to, and God rest his soul, called the late great Kobe Bryant. You know, and I compare my journey in the insurance world similar to his journey in basketball and whatnot. That, to your point, when he first got in, it was the Mamba mentality. You know, I'm gonna eat you, destroy you. I heard a quote that he said, you know, my goal was to make sure that the guy guarding me regretted that he picked up a basketball. That was Kobe's mentality. But then you saw that evolution of, okay, well, hey, I shift from this to, okay, well, now it's about making sure other people are involved. And then he became the girl dad. And then after that, it was like, okay, well, hey, what other business interests is? Okay, I can do this. You know, I can do that and still have an impact in the game, you know, and still be a family man. And so I've sort of seen myself go to that same evolution, you know, the grinder. Okay, nope, gotta go, gotta do this, blah, blah, blah. And I tell people all the time, one of the biggest things for me, Rod, man, was COVID. Man, COVID really put a lot of things in perspective for me personally, you know, and really showed me that, okay, hey, one, you can do business a different way. You know, you can embrace technology and still have that personal feel to it. But then at the same time, it really allowed me to shift my focus and say, okay, what's really more important? You know, is that new agency or that next new business or whatever the case, or is it really the legacy of your family that you're building? So for me right now, you know, the priorities are all the same on that list. They've just shifted now. And it's like, okay, well, hey, you know what? My faith, first and foremost, my family, okay, then the business and everything else. But if I put those two first, man, it'll drive me to be excellent in the insurance business, you know, because my faith drives my character. And that's one of the things you talk about being in the insurance business. One of the things I always wanted to make sure of, man, that I was just a good person. That, okay, you may or may not like me, that's fine. But one of the things I always want to make sure that my reputation in this industry is, oh, Quincy, well, that's a good dude. Yeah, I may not agree with this, or I don't like the tie that he wears, or man, I like the, you know, name of the business, but man, he good people. You know, I would trust sending my a referral there. I would do this. And so that's always been my thing. You know, I always wanted to make sure that I evolved and did that. So when you ask that question, man, that's a real deep question that I ultimately think that anybody that's getting into this business needs to really sit down and say, okay, what are you doing that for? So whether you work for a corporation or whether you're doing it on your own, you know, really the why are you doing it? You know, and to make sure you just stay true to yourself. You know, I think that's really key. Like, so if you're working in a big corporation, I know you have to do certain things to climb the corporate ladder and whatever the case may be, but man, stay true to yourself. You know, and even in my case, in the independent business, you got to go out there and grind. You got to do certain things, but man, just keep that why. Keep that why at your core.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I asked that question because what I've seen throughout, you know, my career, you know, in this space is with myself and with others, which is why I wanted to hear your take on it, is that there's so many opportunities for personal and professional development. Yeah. And they do run, like you said they run kind of intertwined. You know, it's an industry that really will test you, test you and really let you see, you know, what you're really made of, you know, at the end of the day.
It's like that book or that movie, whatever you call it, it's the best of times and the worst of times.
Right.
You know,
right. Yeah.
You put the work into it, man. You can, what I like about this industry is you can see, in most cases, you can see the direct fruit of your labor. You know, and whatnot. In most cases, I know there are some positions in the industry where that's not the case, but then also too, and I got to say this to you, especially, sir, and other people like you, man, this industry can connect you with some people that can truly be inspirations and wins in your sale that can help you grow and blow, and so I think that's really what I've loved about it so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So at this point in your career, you're really driving right now. You're really driving. What's the end goal? What's the end goal for Quincy Branch, your branch benefits consultant?
Wow, the end goal. I think ultimately the end goal is to build a conglomerate. And if I had to just put it out there, I would love to build a minority-owned insurance agency, whatever that looks like, that cracks that top 100.
Yeah.
Because to this date, sir, I don't think or know of any that maybe have been on that list that are minority-owned. They may have minority stakes in them, but I don't think there's any that have been minority-owned that can tap into that space. Yeah. And so to be able to do that, because ultimately, once you do that, then I think it also ultimately just feeds down to all the other stuff that we talked about. We can still go into our communities, do education, do that. We can still hire intentionally, to make sure that we're bringing people into the organization. We can still write and service and sell the type of policies that we know that our community benefits from. But I think more importantly, going back to that basketball analogy, because hey, I'm a basketball enthusiast. I want to go from being a key player to being in the owner's box.
No doubt.
No doubt. And I want to be impactful and influential in my ownership.
Absolutely.
So for me, sir, that's the end game. And I think, again, being 45, I think I still have a long runway ahead of me. I got a lot of energy, for it, and that's what it's all about right now, man. I truly, when we say that statement, let's go out there and change the world one insurance policy at a time. That's what it's all about right now.
Let's do it, man. You got me pumped up. You got me ready. Okay. Ooh. All right. So look, somebody who's looking at getting into this space. Just a couple more questions. So somebody's looking at getting into this space. Maybe they saw an ad or someone made a mention to them. They got a call for an interview, with an agency or with the company, and maybe they're on the fence about it. What would you say to that person about entering this industry?
Do it.
Right.
just do it. First and foremost, just do it. Because to your point, I know you know this, and I love your podcast that talks about this. Because once you get your foot in the door, man, there's so many different avenues. Yeah. There's so many different outlets that you can get into once you get your foot in the door. And so, I think that's really the key. Make the first step. Whether it's an independent agency, whether it's in a corporation, whether it's a captive agency, whatever it may be. Once you get in, you'll realize, oh, okay, I like sales. Oh, and I like service. Oh, and I like doing this underwriting. There's so many different facets that the insurance world touches. That's the amazing piece. You could be somebody that just loves the music entertainment business, which I know you may do, but at the same time, well, if you get the right education and the right licensing, you can develop a niche in the music industry. Yeah, you can write business in it. So you can be doing what you love on the insurance side in the music insurance business. So it touches everything. But again, you have to make that first step. So I would tell anybody, man, make the step. Don't be afraid to make that first step. 'Cause I think that's the part. And you asked me a question earlier, but make that step in knowing what your end goal wants to be. Yeah. Or at least have some type of vision of where you want to go with this thing. Not, I just want to get in just to
start with the end in mind.
Yeah.
That's it. Hey, man, look, I appreciate, this time, I appreciate the conversation. Like I said, man, I consider you a friend, a brother, one of the fellow baddest Black brokers, in the industry, per Ngazi and Ashi.
Right. And again, that's we can add those initials behind our name as well.
Exactly. and obviously, man, we got a lot of work to do together. Yes. As well. For those who want to get in contact with you, really anywhere in the country, they want to be able to reach out, maybe pick your brain, maybe, they want to get into the business and like, hey, can I get down with Branch Benefits Consultants as an agent? How can somebody get in contact and reach out to you?
Well, and thank you for that, sir. I think all the social spaces, first and foremost, we're there, so you can look up on Branch Benefits on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok now, because my son created us a TikTok account. So, we're everywhere, we're all there. But even personally, I'm on all those platforms as well. LinkedIn is probably the best way to get a hold of me. On LinkedIn, Quincy Branch, or whatever the case may be. Or if not, man, call the office, 702-646-2082. Or and get a hold of me. And I'm thankful that you said that, because that's really, I want to make sure I avail myself, because podcasts like this, I wouldn't call it podcast, man, conversations like this, these are the things I love to have. These are things I don't think that people see a lot of. So I do want to give you your shout out, sir, because I think your podcast is one of those that are real, and that one that gives people just that real, hey, this is the platform, this is the answers, this is what you want to do, and whatnot. So kudos to you as well. But yeah, man, if anybody wants to touch base with me, please call me. I would love to have conversations with anybody.
Wonderful. Hey, man, thank you once again. Just appreciate your time, energy, and Quincy, hey, he's opened the door to communication. Now yeah. the brother's busy, so just keep that in mind. But you can reach out. And man, I can't wait till we actually get some more time together too, man, and are able to get back together, continue working on what we're working on. And look, for those who are listening, please, check out Quincy Branch Benefits Consultant. And maybe you heard something in this conversation that was inspiring, that moved you, that made you maybe think to yourself, maybe you should get a license. So until the next time, take care. Thank you.